when I take my glasses off, I'll not see anything that's happening on the screen. So you see, why is it doing that? I don't know why it's going off. So every now and again, Barbara, you don't have to mute yourself and just yell at me, Jackie, you've gone off screen or something crazy's happening. Something like that. I don't know why that's happening now. And plus the time check, because I won't be able to see any time. So yeah, so what I was going to do was Portglenone Forest, and I sent it ahead of time. I used to go out every week, and I took my book with me, and I would just do a sketch. And I find these sketches fantastic. The temptation is when we go out and we've got all this time is to produce something that, you know, is finished and we want to show everybody. But actually the things that I found the best were 15-minute sketches. And that's what I'm going to work from now. And I just want to encourage you that whenever we do go out as Fizzler and doing the pen air, just stick a pencil and do a wee recording. I done this one years ago that I sent through, and it's just brilliant. And all the ones in this book are actually brilliant because I can refer to them. I'm not going to use a photograph because actually the photography that was taken on that day was pretty dull and unimpressive, and you wouldn't actually want to paint from it. So it's a lot is it's pretty annoying the way it's going off like that every time. Anyway. So if I showed you actually some of the photography, you see it's very dull and unimpressive. So that's why if you stick to your memory and your visual interpretation of this, I don't know how we're maybe going to have to resolve this video thing. Let's keep going. But anyway, if you look at this that was sent through to you, you'll actually see that I have, instead of filling in with colour, producing this finished piece, I've actually written in some of the things that I observed. So there'll be colours like purple green, where it hits. I'm going to take my glasses off now so I can read. Very pale green. So those were written on when I actually drew this. So that's my reference for colours. And the other very important thing that I would always have done then was point where the light's coming from, because that's crucial. So there's a wee arrow up in the top. So that's where my light's coming from. So that's going to be the source of light. And then also any shadows that are going to fall on the other side of the trees, etc. That's what I'm going from. So I've already drawn that out and put my book away. And I wonder, is there any way you can address this video thing? It keeps going off. I know you may just shout at me. It seems to be going off every second or two. So if I was doing this at home, I'm doing it at home, but I'm not in a time limit. I'm going to put a bit of masking fluid up these trees just to hold back. But seeing as we're flying by the seat of our pants here, I'm just going to put a wee bit of masking tape up, which can be easily lifted off. I've got some thin stuff here, but you can just cut it up to whatever length you want. And just hold it back a wee bit. That would be a terribly straight edge on there, but we can work with that. So just hold it a couple back in the foreground. And I'd already these cut before it came on. That'll do. So I also sent you through some of the paints, that the paints that I am using today, but basically my paints are divided up. So I have a blue palette. We families are put together. So the two blues that I gave you, Payne's grey when it's in watercolour is a beautiful blue, whereas when it's in oils it's a different ball game altogether. So that's my dark and my cobalt blue. The next one is my purples. So I tend to see, there was a dark purple, lunar violet, and then I think I called it soda light, but it's actually Sugolite, S-U-G instead of S-O-D, something like that, Sugolite, and it's nice. So then my darker raw umbers, ochres, and the greens. So there's the palette, and basically I just keep everything then within those two that I didn't mention, which I've squeezed out this morning. And I got these, and when I got them again, and they scared the life out of me because they're so strong. Those those quintic, I don't know even how to pronounce it, quinticoria. There's a gold one and a red. So very, very sparingly put two of these out on the palette. So if they appear, I'll mention them, but I mean I usually keep them well away from everything because they're so strong and overpowering. Right, so we're ready to start. There's my brushes. I sent those through as well. Somebody recommended these brushes to me, and I love them. And really, they're all that I need. So that's my range. Okay, so I'm a big brush. I've got a new pot of water. Used to tease me in paint pot for having this really very tatty beaker that I use the water in. So now I've got a nice clean jug. So okay, so here we go. Yeah. Wet the whole top. I use this heavy paper because it's so flat, and you really actually don't need to stick it down onto your board. But I'm just there to keep it in place because it doesn't go all warped. It stays nice and flat for you. Okay, so there it's wet. See that? Okay. The next size of brush, then I'm going to put a wee bit of the blue. I just may reach up and press that every minute or two. A wee bit of cobalt because it's want the light coming through. So I'm going to put a wee bit of blue. I kind of like my phone beside me for references and messages and everything. Having it stuck up above me there is because I couldn't even look on Google and say, why is my video going off every minute or two? Okay, so there's a wee bit of blue on. So let's go into the raw sienna. So I said my light's coming from a certain place where my arrow was. So and the light, yeah, the ochre is quite bright. And we would want this going right along the whole horizon. So the sky softens down to meet the land.
Jacque, you need to let us see the video. Are they?
I just keep reminding me on that. It goes off very quickly on me. Putting a wee bit of Payne's grey just around the top to add a wee bit of drama into the sky so that my yellows and sunlight sort of sing out a wee bit more. Okay, it's going to be so many trees coming on this over this sky. I think that's enough. I don't want it too heavy. I've got my kitchen roll here, so I decide where my light is. I can just dab just to get that wee extra point of light. Okay, so that's lightened up that wee bit there. So I'm going to work away now from that wet area. I'm going to go onto the path. Okay, so that's
Jackie,
wet.
can you look and check on your phone to see if you have pressed record on your own phone?
Right, that means taking it out of this rack.
Oh, well, I mean, not necessarily then, don't. It's just we have a situation here that if you have the phone on the page where you're supposed to be, but you're not actually recording the video. You know what I mean? You haven't pressed record
No, no.
on phone. If you press record, it might just keep going.
Record's coming up as you're doing it.
No, but I mean, are you recording it on your phone?
No, no, no.
Well, try to record it on your phone and see what happens.
How do you do that?
Well, you know, as you would normally take a photograph, you would normally press photograph and then you would press it. You're actually taking a video.
Yeah, but I would have to go out of Zoom, would I not?
Sorry?
Would I not have to be able to?
Oh, no, you don't have to go out of Zoom. Your camera, you're just looking at it and it's reverting to the home page. What you need to do is you need to go into photographs and video and then press video, press it as if you are taking a video of it on your own phone.
Right.
Try it.
I'm doing that. What's that doing that? Okay,
Well,
I think that'll stay on now.
well, that's on now. Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Thank you, Sorrel.
Did Sarah look it up for me?
That's coming, staying on now.
That's staying on. Well, there's something we've learned.
Another thing we have learned.
Thank goodness for that. Right, onto the path. On we go with this path. So I like this wee path. It's in Portglenone Forest. If you go through the gardens and then you can go on up over the hill. So that's the hill, if any of you have walked it. The bluebells are about to come out. They're not out yet. I'd say another week, 2 weeks maybe. So it's quite nice the way this leads you eye in, and then it has a nice point of kind of disappearing around the hill. So I'm going to go in and get some of the ochre, and here we go with this red, rosy, what's it called again? The Quintadome red. What do you call it? So I want the path to be a wee bit pink. So on a nice smaller brush, and I'm going to go in and get some of my deeper purples there. See that nice lunar violet? So basically any purples. I mean, you'll have your own wee colours, and if you group them together like that, so we want a dark edge. And what I like is working wet and wet, so that kind of bleeds in. I really don't want this masking tape in the middle of my path. Get up. Take that right off. There we go. And this is drying out quite quickly for me here. It's probably the heat of these lights, the heat of my face. Whew, the pressure. There we go. And I'm going to put a wee bit of Payne's Grey now, just into the edges. Okay, so we've got a tree here, so shadows. And that's a lovely thing, isn't it? About going through the forest is light in the shadows. So there we are, shadow across the path. There's a tree here. See, a wee shadow would possibly fall about there. And while it's still wet and wet, it's still doing its own wee thing. It's running and blending. I'm so glad that you looked that up and found that out for that was right the video. So I'm just dotting in a wee bit of the raw umber burgundy. I went to get my raw umber burgundy this morning. It's quite dried up. So
it was Sorrel who sorted it out.
yes, thank you, Sorrel. It's made all the difference. Okay, so leave the path at that stage. And now go up onto this hill. So in the foreground, I have draw as many details as you feel you want, just something in the foreground, kind of to take you in. So I'm going to put a bit of ochre on here. I don't like these masking tapes being away down here. By time then I would have those cut up. Plenty of water. And also, if you're wanting to do a few details, highlights of kind of what's in the forest, I would hold those back with a masking fluid maybe. But I'm not doing that today because I wouldn't have time to let it dry and I'll wipe it off. And don't worry if your path starts to run, anything that starts to blend. As long as it's not something crazy in your sky, I think you can get away with that. So I'm putting some raw sienna. The whole thing. And now, sorry, and now I'm into the sap green. This is where I get into my zone. Forget I'm supposed to demonstrate. Okay, so
Could you move your painting over towards your palette? So we can, that's it, that's the very job.
See, I can't actually see that because of my glasses off.
That's okay.
But this is perfect vision for me. This clarity is great. It's lovely at this time of year, the fresh greens, the new leaves and the light coming through. It's just lovely. So keeping our fresh greens, nice wee bit of fluid running happening there. Okay. Now into my Payne's grey. Look at the lovely blue that Payne's grey is. So shadow. Let's take my shadow across. Off. Oh, we have a lovely straight line up through the sky. Just soften that. Okay, from all the trees going away from the light. Okay, let's drop in then some more colours. The umber. Just let that be running. Just taking a bit of water off my brush here. Tidying up these straight edges that have come against the tree. Now, a wee bit darker in there. I didn't wet that bit because the masking tape was on it. Now, if you were wanting to put bluebells in, and I don't particularly, I'm mixing up here a bit of the cobalt blue, and here's another lovely wee colour. And what's it called? violet. Yeah, Sugarlight Genuine. It's that kind of purpley. And it's a Daniel Smith. Not all of my paints are Daniel Smith, by the way. Some of the ones are Newton, but you get some nice wee unusual things. So I don't want too much of that in, but I know some of you might like Bluebell. Suggestion of Bluebells coming. Right, I'm going over here with the darker Payne's Grey. Just at the edge of the path, tie it in with the green bank. And if you have it nice and wet and you want to, I would maybe lift my board up and give it a bit of a run and let it kind of do its own thing. But seeing more video, and just keep it flat on the ground. Right, let's go to this other bank here then. So there's sort of planes going back.
Can you move your sheet over a wee bit again, the other way this time, so that's it. That's great. Thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
So yeah, we've got our foreground, then we've got sort of another step back the other side of the path, and then behind that, that's our distant horizon. It's not that distant because it's a hill, but you know what I mean. And there's stages of our painting just to keep the colours. So let's get some Rossi in on here. By putting the raw sienna down first, it keeps a freshness, you know, because that's what we're sort of going for, you know, early spring, nice and light, fresh greens and sunlight. And so you get nice heavy loaded wet brush onto wet, and it's doing its own wee thing here, which is great. We've got kind of an organic flow going on. So I'm going into my Lunar Violet, which is a dark purple. So our wee dips and hollows. And if I take that along the horizon, well, it's not the horizon, that's the top of this wee level. I'll soften it, drop it back a wee bit. That's bit off. Now, Payne's Grey again for the shadows. Shadows dropping back from this tree. This one. And that one. Just wetting around that so that kind of blend itself. Okay. Okay, let's now go on to this distant hill, which is not that distant, but just to get a sense of. I've just gone across these back trees, as long as I try and keep the foreground ones a wee bit clean. And if you had your masking fluid on, you'd be fine. Okay, so let's get a wee bit of Payne's Grey. So in the foregrounds, I put raw sienna, so that was nice and bright. So my background on these is the Payne's grey, which is hopefully going to drop it back a bit. So then now I'll add on to that. It's going to have that cold. I can add my wee bits of green. It's sap green, just Winsor Newton. That's a bit of a straight line going along there. I want that. Okay, some shadows now. Back to our Payne's grey. Now to see where we put our trees. Too strong, possibly. Get them in first. Yeah, and try and get your shadows dropping at the same angle. I have made this mistake before of having shadows sort of dropping in every. So yeah, try and keep your shadows going in one way. Just pulling this across, show the different planes of. Okay, now I think we're ready to start our trees. Now to take off this awful yellow, this straight line that happened with the masking tape. There we go. There's the.
Could you move? Well,
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a very straight line on this because of the masking tape. So I'm just soft that. And there's another straight line on here. So soften that. Now have a risk here of absolutely flooding in through the backgrounds, but I'm going to have to risk it just because of time. So this is going to end up looking nothing like what I normally paint. Sure. So the raw sienna, it's just not. It's just a bit bright, so I decided it's ochre. And if I let down my tree, is my tree on yet?
Yep, the tree's on.
The other thing about these brushes, they go to a very fine point. So you could actually just stick, you see, with the big brush because it tapers off so nicely. Okay, so I'm going into my purple now. I'm going down one side. So remember the light's hitting the tree on the right hand side. And into my Payne's grey. So this side of the tree is the side the shadow's on. Now, just to give a wee bit of form to mixing my purple and my brown, just to make the tree round and not flat. Bring it down the edge. I draw it round the wee lines, and it starts to get dark. So while this is still wet, it works quite nicely. Be a wee branch coming out here.
That's lovely, Jackie.
Oh, goodness, this has been an experience, I have to say.
Yeah, I know, but it's working. It's working.
I don't know where you're gonna see.
But it's really, it makes it look like a tree.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so I mix a wee bit of the raw umber in there with the Payne's grey, just to deepen that colour and go down this edge. So I'll take it under this branch a wee bit just to branching out. And that's a nice thing while it's still wet. It'll soften that if I put a wee dot or two, you know, we sort of mark up the bark. It'll blend on. Right, well, maybe she'll do some distant trees. How are we getting on for time, Barbara?
It's 11:44.
Whew. Okay, so these distant trees then will be a wee bit more bare. We'll go right up. Just don't try and do too many here. So I cleaned my brush there. I'm actually putting fresh, clean water down that. And that's what's giving it the shape. See, it's sort of bringing its highlights and its shadows just by really lifting off down one side. Let's do a couple more of these. So we've got Payne's grey. So on. Where am I tracing? A couple beside each other here. Clean out my brush. Lift it off down one side. We'll do another tree then in the middle, so that I'll kind of get the two and a few branches. Yeah. So the trees in the background were with the Payne's grey, which is a nice blue, and these trees that you want to come a wee bit more forward. Around our ochre. So nice. Put it over. Let's get my deep purple. Slightly down this side. It's kind of going around behind. The Payne's grey. You see, I use very little colour, you know, a very limited palette. Let's say it's very limited palette. Wash my brush out, clean water. I think this is when the tree takes its form, is this pulling around, just see if you're giving it the rings of its bark. It also gives us its form and its shape. Okay, we'll just put a wee bit of umber in just to have a perfect looking tree. Just pulling this wee branch across the front of that back tree there. Have the back. You see I'm repeating the same thing again. And just flick up at the bottom. You know how to end your tree, you usually break off into its roots and anchor it into the ground a bit by extending that out and brush again. Trail around. A wee bit of umber there, let it fiddle away. So I'm going to put some branches in, just so we kind of get a full idea where we're going with it, because I'll not get all the trees into it. So let's take a branch and just let your brush trickle across. Remember, when there's another branch, it splits. So if you wiggle, do this with a rigger actually or anything, we get a bit of a bump there, that's where another branch will come off. So when a new branch forms, it's on a split. This kind of gives you a freedom. You're not staring at a photograph, or you know, you're just carrying on, letting your brush and your own imagination. Because nobody's going to be counting or looking at the branches up in the tree. You bring branches maybe not all going the same way as well. And there's a whole lot of different trees. Sometimes we tend to all have our branches, but you can bring one down. It's a bit more natural. Okay, so getting an impression. I think maybe try one of these trees over here. So I'm now on the other side of the light, so get my purple. My shadow's going to be in this side now, which is something actually then for my shadow for that tree we'll need to drop away at a different angle. Okay, so there's my light. You don't work out where your shadows are going to fall. There's a lovely sort of flow happening there. It's nice. And also by running a wee deeper purple at the edge of that, it's fixing that edge, you know, where it meets the sky and the grass. And then, okay, paint's great. I never, by the way, use black. And if you need deep color, then just start mixing the paint's gray and some of these darker colors. Oops, you'll end up with a nice deep shade, but it won't be dead. It'll still be full of color and life.
Everyone's saying you're in a lovely atmosphere, Jackie.
Oh, really? That's good. Let's trail across and let some of these blend away. I was in Portglenone Forest a few weeks ago with my wee grandson. He's 2, and wee children are so keen to meet a wee face like there's a wee friend. And they're really, really missing out on just taking to the park and they see another wee person. Oh. So there was another wee boy in the park in the forest. And so of course he made friends with him, run around the trees. And his mummy asked him, and what colour is the tree? Just trying to, because they were the same age, she was sort of trying to see, you know, what their language was. And he looked at the tree and he says, the tree's green. And she corrected him, no, tree's brown. But he was right. The tree was green. It was, the bark on the tree was definitely green. I would love to have said, you know, actually, there was no brown. There was definitely no brown on it. And sometimes we do that, don't we? I presume. Okay, so seeing I've said that now, I'll have to put a bit of green on this. My son is best man on a wedding on Saturday. This wedding has been cancelled 4 times and rearranged. Finally, it's happening. And because it's kind of short notice, his partner decided, well, they didn't know about the wedding. She decided that the hair had got to a ridiculous stage and she would cut it. And so she started into cutting it with no experience whatsoever. It all went disastrously wrong and decided the only thing to do here is to shave this off. And he shaved his head. And by the end of the week, then the new date for the wedding had been announced. So my son was my best man on the wedding with a shaved head. What can you say? It's so not him because his hair is actually usually quite long, you know. Anyway, there we go. So put another tree in here, a couple of USBs, then you'll get an idea how it's going to look, because I'm really doing the same. Oh god, that bright. See there, that gets the token went into the yellow ochre, which is brighter. Okay, it's too watery too. Oh yeah, so why I said that is the photographs are being taken in Portglenone on Saturday, which would be lovely. Now, where's my light? Pay attention to myself. On this side still for this one. I really felt like strong, the shadow, rather than being around the side, it kind of been coming more around the back. And the same with this one. So I'm making it a bit deeper. And my purple. My brush and trail around so that we don't have a tree with stripes, just stripes on it and not to the back. Okay, so it's all a wee bit up in there, what's happening down here. So we get some Payne's grey. And we'll mix that into the sap green to get a nice rich green. So tie that in. Also being a wee bit shadow because
I know that Leslie has to leave sometime very soon, Jackie.
yeah. So what time are we at now?
We are now at exactly 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. So yeah, so you know where I'm going with this. I've showed you all the different sort of levels of it and how I do the trees, and I just would fill in the rest of those trees, which could take another 3 or 4 hours, and do then all the branches just trailing over them. And I like to do my branches in the Payne's grey, nice and watery, so they're they're fading into the background, and maybe do a stronger colour in some of the branches that are coming off these 2-4 trees to bring them forward for me. So I'll show you one that was done earlier. Excuse me. No. If I hold it up maybe to this one. See it there? Is that better? So that's a similar idea. Similar colours, same place, not exactly the same path, but kind of shows you. And that's a wee one done in watercolours. I have another wee one here done in pastels. That's got more bluebells in it.
Right, can everybody unmute themselves there if they wish to, please?
That's showing up okay, not reflecting, because I can't see. My glasses are off.
No, well it is, I can see it, yes, it's there.
Is it okay? Okay. Same place.
Oh, right. Hang on, I hadn't seen that bit. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah. So if you go on,
Oh, yes, I can see.
I think I shared that in the WhatsApp group one time, yeah. Probably one, so.
I can still only see the painting. You have to go
On the
back
phone.
onto Jackie's other camera.
It's not on the top either.
If you kind of scroll into all the participants, then you can get Jackie's and double click on that, and it will then prioritize that.
Got
camera.
you. Thank you, Sorrel. Oh,
I
that's
can't believe it.
beautiful.
I'm so
Oh.
so new to Zoom. I can't believe I'm managing to work
Have you
it.
got it now, Sorrel?
Beautiful.
Yeah, I do indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's lovely, Jackie.
yeah. So that's that
Yeah,
one.
beautiful.
Quite like, yeah, quite like the light capture. It's hard. It's a little bit harder to capture the light with watercolor than it is with, well, pastels are stronger and you've got all the variations. It's harder, but that's the other one. And
Lovely.
watercolor. So
I just
yeah,
love your colours, Sorrel, or Jackie. Just love the colours you use. Beautiful.
so that's our idea. That's what we're aiming for with this one here eventually. So, so that's her.
Gosh, very good. All right, I was going to take out my sketchbook and go, right, I'm going to do something from memory in sketchbook only and see what skills I've got, just to see.
Yes.
Just to see whether it's you know, what the changes are.
I know, just add in from what you know, from what you've painted and what you've seen and what's in your memory. There's a lot of freedom with it. I loved it. I definitely would like to go back to doing that. It's a bit of discipline, just actually recording in your sketchbook.
Yes.
And not when you get to that stage want to carry it on.
That's right. No, I thought that was brilliant. Yeah.
I know. So I mean, I done that one years ago. An idea. You know, that's very simple, but you know, it's there.
And because you did that years ago, would you still be happy making a painting from that now, or would you want to go back there?
Well, you know, you still want to go back there, but there's no reason why. You know, if somebody came and said, you go up Portglenone Forest, yep. No problem. In fact, I actually went there that day with my friend. She emigrated to Australia and she was back home again. She's an arty girl, and we went there together, and we spent 15 minutes drawing. And I always now have that and think of that wee time when she's back in Australia. So I've finished this, I might send it over to her. This one, seeing it's kind of done on demo.
Lovely.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so that's my wee sketchbook. It's full of all those there. Say done 15-minute jobs, and that's a great reference. So yeah, that would be good once we get back out again.
Right, I'm going to stop recording now.
Lovely. Thank you very much.